Welcome everyone, welcome home to my channel. If you haven't been here before, pull up a seat, sit down. We are going to talk about Goblin War by Jim C. Hines. This is the third book in a series. Okay, so if you think it's hard being a hobgoblin or a human, try living a goblin's life for a while. In fact, try imagining what it's like to be the runtiest goblin in the caves, the lone worshiper of a god who's been forgotten for a good reason, and the target everyone points to at the first hint of trouble. Try picturing yourself as Jig Dragonslayer and see how you like it. Despite impossible odds, Jig was still alive. He had survived an adventurous quest against a dragon and a necromancer, a pixie invasion that had ogres and trolls dropping like flies, and most frightening of all, the threat of being made chief of the goblins. He wasn't sure how much more he could stand. Naturally, he was about to find out. War was brewing in the world outside the mountain, and when the Goblin Slayer was invaded by human warriors in search of the rod of creation, Jig just knew it was only the start of another really bad day. More like another really bad couple of weeks. Because this took place in like a span of a couple of weeks. I gotta say, the dramatized audio for this Audible is absolutely amazing. You would think a book like this would take hours, but it's like 6 hours long, almost 7. And it was a fantastical listen, and I loved every second of it. And I'm so sad that I finished the series, and I'm not gonna be able to continue. Like, I wish there was like a 4th book in this series, and a 5th book, and a 6th book, and they were all dramatized audibles that I could listen to and enjoy. Jim C. Hines, why do you have to end it at the 3rd book? Why couldn't you have made more? That's how much I loved it. So basically, it starts off with Jig fighting a bunch of humans on the mountain outside the cave, because for some reason he unsealed the cave. Obviously, they couldn't live sealed within the cave forever because they would need fresh air and a bunch of other things to make sure they survive. So, the cave was unsealed, and they were being invaded. Now, this was like 2 years after the first book happened. And so it's been a while since they've been invaded by humans or other things that were trying to kill them. And so when they made it to Grell's, is that not her name? It's not Golaka. The chief, their chief, whatever. Their chief's room, they get cornered by Guinevere and her brother. I don't even remember her brother's name. He's that much of a not matter character. And they demand that the elves have their finest warriors come with them, and that they're going to seal the rest of the goblins inside the cave, and then be that. So Jig is taken along with a bunch of the finest warriors. They march to this town called Valen, I think it is. And they're forced to cut off tree limbs, flowers off from these trees to make hardened points, because they're preparing for an army that is marching, not in their direction, but close by. Now, the reason for this is that this army is supposedly going to free all of the monsters from the tyranny that is called humans. After a couple of days of this, Jig frees himself, Relka, and Trolloc, I think his name is, and they flee to go find Bella the Bloody's army, because they'd rather be in that army than in the prisoner state that they were already in by the humans. So they join this army after they find it, and that's when Jig learn the Bella the Bloody serves another forgotten god called Issa of the Winter Winds, and that she's looking for Timlis Shadowstar to have on her side when she goes up against Noct, the god of death, and just to defeat him. But Timlis doesn't want to fight Noct because Noct is his son, and he doesn't want to do it. And Noct was the betrayer to the forgotten gods. So basically, there's these two really powerful, stupid gods, and their power is going to eventually destroy everything. So the 15 forgotten gods plus Noct were going to fight these two to prevent them from destroying the world, maybe even killing them off so that way they wouldn't exist no more, and it would be a thing where they could absorb their power, spread them out between the 16 gods, and prevent disaster from ultimately happening. But Noct betrays them, and he attacks and weakens each and every single one of them to the point where they're all in hiding. Some of them are probably dead, and some of them are not. Especially Issa. There was another one, and Timlis. So, the only thing I didn't like about the audibles is that the italicized marks in the beginning of the chapters and the recitation of the deeds of Jig Dragonslayer, written by the Goblin Relka, founder of the Children of Shadowstar. Those were the only things that weren't in it. And in the italicized, you learn more about Timlis. Autumn Star is what he was actually called. He wasn't originally Shadowstar. He was Autumn Star. And the war that they had. At the beginning of it, it's Shadow Stars in Autumn Stars in his temple, and it's being attacked by Noct. It goes like every single one of the chapters has those types of things going on in them, and it's really interesting to me that that's the way it's done. You learn that about Issa and him fighting to stop the obvious gods. Blind Alma was actually a god that fell to Noct, and it talks about how Noct punished all of the gods who rebelled against the two of them, and how they did it. He thought he killed them off, but apparently he didn't kill them all off. Timlis took a point and gathered up a bunch of his powers, as Noct was just lightning striking him over and over and over again to kill off his godly body, to transfer his godliness and mind and everything into that of a, what was it? Sand lizard. And so he spent a very long time as a sand lizard. So you get to see his life as a sand lizard too, and the woman that he had tried to soothe, that broke his spine and everything, and her daughter, who thought that Timlis Shadowstar as a lizard was her mother. So you learn about a lot more of that stuff, and then it's revealed. It's revealed that he found out that Noct had placed a curse upon them to make them forgotten. Now, here's the thing. He made it uncivilized humans. At first he thought it was everybody and everything everywhere. But no, civilized is not. So this goblin, Jig's father, actually, surprisingly, had found a book that spoke about Timlis Autumn Star, right? And in this book, he had actually been an old man at one point too, which is fucking funny. That's when he realized that even the gods forgot about him. But other gods didn't forget. The forgotten gods didn't forget each other. Okay, that's when he thought he wanted to end it all. So yeah, at one point he wanted to end it all because he's been around for thousands of years and nobody's remembered him, and he's tired and he doesn't want to be lonely anymore. And then nothing happens. So he's like, oh. And then he's like sleeping and slumbering in his temple, and he wakes up to this small dragon talking about Timlis Autumn Star. It's hard to read, that human blood all over the cover. she said the book was supposed to go to the chief, and then find out that her name is Galaka, and that she's pregnant with a child. Jarek is his name, but Jarek, of course, dies, and Galaka lives, obviously, and Galaka gives birth to Jig, and they were actually going to kill him because he was a runt, but Autumn Star, now almost gone by Shadow Star, makes it to where the nursery raises him, and he lives, and he watches Jig, and he chooses Jig. He chose Jig to be his priest before he was even born. And I love that. So, Jig and Bella finally make it. Jig and Bella, in the not so flashy parts of the story, make it to the hole up to Jig's cave, because that's where she's going to go to try to convince Autumn Star to appear and help her summon Noct. They find out that her plan is to just have a whole bunch of death between both sides of the army. That she doesn't really care about her own army. She just wants to help her goddess, Issa, get to Noct. Now she's got this really powerful Icy Storm sword. Jig shoves a torch into her face and gets him and Relka out of there. And then they flee back to the humans. And they actually, with a bunch of goblins, take over the humans. And he talks to Guinevere, and he tells her everything he's learned. And so they learn that, that's what's happening. Her army is coming to Valen, and they're just going to try to destroy everything. And they want a big bloody bath, and that it can't bloody happen. When the army gets there, they don't attack at first. Basically what happens is that Issa comes along and tries to convince Autumn Star, Shadow Star, to come out and help her defeat Noct. And Jig puts a fire spider on top of her and kind of melts her to protect himself. Yeah. There's that. So, let me see. I'm trying to think. They make a plan to where Jig is going to get as close to Bella as he can, and he is going to kill Bella. They're fighting. When they do get there, and he does get close, they're fighting. Bella comes to stab him, and instead of dodging, of course, or ducking, or anything like that, he just stands there watching the sword come to him, until the Shadow Star appears and takes it to the gut. And he's starting to die. So Timorous has gotten stabbed, and now he's probably going to die, which is terrible in of itself. And Jig kills Bella. Yay! So he goes before the humans, and he's like, the only thing we really want is to be left alone in our cave. Leave us alone. And it becomes Goblin Shire, where all the monsters live, after a battle there. Guinevere's brother, her only brother left out of the 3 brothers she had, also died by Bella, because she's the Winter Winds got on her side, and throws all of his enhanced hawks onto the ground, and they all die. And the Rod of Creation is destroyed, thanks to Bella. Bella slices it in half. But Jig also destroyed the sword, so now Issa doesn't have a sword. And Jig is named a Baron of the mountain, and they have to pay taxes. Of course, ever since Shadowstar disappeared on them, they haven't been able to contact Shadowstar or use his powers for anything. And we get one last flashback before the end of the book, for the last chapter, where he's bleeding all over his temple floor, and Issa shows up, and they talk, and he's like, well, he's my son, he'll come for me, and he will remember. And she flees, and he's like, I'm sorry about your orc, maybe you should have gotten yourself a goblin instead. Of course, Jig swears as he's going to leave to go back into his into his lair that he heard a voice, heard something. But he didn't, or at least it doesn't tell you that he did. And that Relka says that Timothy Shadowstar civilized us, so that's why you can't hear him anymore. And soon we'll forget about him. And Jig's like, well, we're gonna go eat some hobgoblins. So, right, civilized. We ain't civilized. In any way, shape, or form. There's a bunch of other stuff that happens, but I've glossed over those. Like, Trock gets a wolf that he rides. Jig actually rides a wolf. I mean, he's riding one in the picture, and he actually does ride one called Bastard. And he handles him with troll toes, because apparently they can grow those back. Funny business for that. I mean, like, that's really weird. My favorite character in this is Smudge. Because poor Smudge just goes along for the ride, and he does not do anything besides try to keep himself alive and eat. And poor Jig just drags him along everywhere. I mean, I'm glad he didn't bring him to the final battle between him and Bella, because poor Smudge. But yeah, Smudge is my favorite character because he's just so cute as a fire spider, and I don't know, I just think he's cute. But I'm not a goblin, so I would never actually keep him. My most disliked character, Noct. Because you betrayed your father. I mean, sure, Issa's not your mother, but that's besides the point. You betrayed your father. You attempted to kill your father. You wiped him out of everyone's memories. Like, my God, you're such an ass. Do I have a favorite passage? Yes I do. Jig was marvelous, selfish, and cowardly, and completely untrustworthy, but also clever and resourceful and desperate to be something more than he was. Unfortunately, he was also so busy staying alive that he rarely thought about things beyond his little world in the caves until now. Oh, that makes it so wonderful. It really does. And I guess, yeah, my favorite quote would be when he literally tells Issa, maybe you should have gotten yourself a goblin instead. Because he chose Jig to be his champion before Jig was even born as a goblin. Because he was like, goblins are uncivilized. I can do something with this. And he literally chooses Jig. It's so wonderful. That's actually also what stood out as memorable. The fact that Timothy Shadowstar chose Jig from the very beginning, before Jig was even born, that this was going to be the person he was going to put his hopes and his likes and his powers into, because he's the one who made Darnik remember the Forgotten Gods, that made Jig ask questions about the Forgotten Gods, including Timothy Shadowstar, even though he was actually Timothy Autumn Star to begin with. So yeah, I just liked it. So, what I thought about the end of the book. I enjoyed it. I loved it. And I really, 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 really wish Timothy Shadowstar has not died in any way, shape, or form. Because that would just break my poor itty-bitty little heart. And I don't think my heart can take it. Okay? I don't think my heart can take it. What book did it remind me of? There is no book like this. And there never will be again in my life. I will never have a book that's like this. Ever. Ever again. This book, as you know, is part of a series called Jig the Goblin. And it is the third book in the series, which means Jig the Goblin is ended. Sad, sad, sad. I rated this a 4.5, and that's only because you almost killed off my god, Timothy Shadowstar. I don't like that you probably killed off Timothy Shadowstar, and I'm hoping and praying you didn't. But I'll never know, because there's no other book that will come out after this. Why didn't you give me a fourth book where he comes back and he helps Jig with another adventure? Like raising his own son with Relka, because Relka was apparently in love with him. And Jig never realized it. There could be something with that. Oh my lord. There's so much stuff you could have done, but you stopped it. And I really wish you didn't. But beggars can't be choosers. I enjoyed it. I really did. And I'm so happy that I finished it. But I'm also really sad because now there's no more of it. Anyways, if you guys think I deserve a like, comment, and a lovely subscription, would you go ahead and drop it down below? I will see you next illusion.